technically this is all good, that I'm coming through, that I can see you also if you are joining live. Yes, that's great. I'll wait a little moment to see if anybody actually is joining me live today. So yeah, how is everybody? How are you doing? Yeah, it's interesting times again, still, whichever way you want to look at it, all round. So first of all, I wanted to do a little check-in with how everyone is doing. And yeah, I've been observing a few things this week, so really felt very drawn to share something today. You know, it's like this week, round about this week, in many countries around the world, we are already in like some form of second lockdown, or we're going into second lockdown. And this is the pandemic and the challenges of this year, and kind of this whole lockdown period at the first time round was where Awakening Resiliency, the program, was born from. And I'm right now in the kind of height of sort of production and collating all of the materials for our next round, our November retreat program, which is starting on the 16th. So yeah, it's quite interesting. Obviously, as we were planning the dates for that, we didn't really know at the time that around this time that we are running that program, most countries are going into some form of second emergency state and lockdown. So it's yeah, quite interesting how these things sometimes come together. I want to, before I go any further, I want to actually let you know that I decided to share today's video also publicly outside of this private group, not live. So live, it's really just here. But I will then take the recording of this, and I would very much like to share this also on my personal profile and the Yoga Space and Haladi Facebook page and Instagram. So if anybody is commenting or engaging with me live, then just to be aware that that is the case, and that it will be outside ultimately of this private group. And I hope that is okay for you, but you have the choice to obviously not engage. So hopefully that's fine. That's why I'm saying it now. Yeah, very, very much to do with part of this, what's happening with the program that I'm working on at the moment. And everything is just so present of what we are doing in that program right now, and it's arising in my own body very much. I'm really observing all sorts of quite interesting responses in my own being and my system and my body, physically, mentally, emotionally. And of course, also noticing a lot around me, and in the classes I teach my clients. This week, I mean, you know, also with the elections and just everything else that's going on in the world, and the uncertainties around kind of second lockdowns and the pressures that are going to give, is evoking quite a bit of challenge in our systems, I think. So on my part, so in Portugal, this week was only sort of semi-restrictions to some point, as they were really trying to not impact the economy again so badly. And we are going to go back to an emergency state, but it is still very unclear to this point as I'm speaking as to what that is really going to entail for small businesses, for example, and in areas where there's a very high number of infections, which Lisbon is one of. So it's very much like I have no idea if my business is still open next week kind of day. And I'm recognizing, I mean, just the idea of that, and I've been saying that all the way along, I'm like, I don't know if I've got it in me to do the whole thing again. Oh my God, you know? Just the idea of potentially having to close the studio again is exhausting me. And what I'm recognizing though, that is purely coming from a memory in my body. It's the memory of the amount of fight and energy that it cost me the first time round, that it's still costing me now to keep the studio alive, and it's not really what is happening right now in my system, what the present moment in time is for my body. I'm feeling quite fine, I'm healthy, I feel well in my body, there's no pain, there is no real exhaustion actually, but it's the memory of it that's just bringing a complete sense of overwhelm. So there's a whole story that my nervous system is mapping a kind of my response to the current situation against, and making that very real in my system arising, and it's not really real. It might become real, but right now in this very moment, that mapping against that past experience is not actually serving me at all. And I'm observing that in people around me as well, for sure, in class and just people around me. It pulls us, it pulls us from our present moment, from our present state of being. In my system, I can really feel a change in my breathing, like tension in my chest. And I said that kind of back in, I don't know, April, May or whenever, and I was observing it, it just sort of felt like we were universally holding everybody was holding their breath. And it feels a little bit like we haven't actually quite exhaled again yet because we are still holding our breath, and we are holding this breath because maybe what's happening right now is triggering that memory in our system from the first time round, or from even completely other experiences of our lives, and I'm not sure that the time between the sort of first big wave, so over the summer, it was opportunity enough and time enough for everybody to actually really fully exhale again, and to resource, to charge up. I have a feeling, and I'm just observing that in me, there was kind of like a small part that still hadn't really fully dared to exhale again after the original kind of challenge. And so, I'm kind of saying to myself, as the work that I feel like I need to now really do to evoke my innate resilience that I do have. I do have quite a lot of resilience, to make sure that I bring closure to that memory, and that I do take a moment and I do turn to my practice to help me exhale again, because now really is the time, because we're going to have quite a long time of more challenge ahead of us, pandemic, no pandemic, around the world. So it's it's happening right now. So and I'm just feeling like in my system that the fact that there is something in me that still hasn't quite dared to fully exhale is covering up my access to my innate power, my innate ability to adapt, my resiliency. You know, I have a lot of inner warrior energy in me. I can motivate, I can drive, I can get things done, I can kick things into action, I can do many of these things. That's in my nature. And I'm not quite sure that that warrior had quite enough rest after the kind of sort of first big battle, because it sort of stayed out there in the battlefield, I feel. So I need to find ways to really come back home, to come back to me, to come back to my innate nature, and observe and recognize the things that pull me away from being present. Because right now, right here, in my lovely little kind of practice workspace that I've created for myself for these times, actually here at home, I'm good. It's all good. It's all good. I'm fine. I'm warm. I'm comfortable. I'm good. So my work right now is inquiring and recognizing the things that are pulling me away from that, that's always how I kind of tend to describe it, because that's how I feel it, like something is pulling and pushing me from my axis, from my earth sky connection that runs right through my heart. That is me, that is who I am, and being kind of, it's sort of my central axis of who I am is sort of being pushed into a zigzag line somehow, and it's quite jarred, and that's not particularly in resonance with anything. It sort of loses its adaptability, its bounceability, its movability, its fluidity, to be in flow with what is life right now. So exhale. Exhale. Dare to exhale again. So I want to share kind of two things. One is a little breathing method, breathing practice, something. And one is, I just want to talk a little bit about sort of how I can include more embodied moments, little rituals in my day-to-day life, because that will help me do a little check-in, to notice, to take a step back and go, oh, hang on a second, I'm being pulled and pushed away right now. I'm not really tuning in what is right now, who I am, to be in me at home, grounded and connected with earth and sky. So throughout the day, just any normal day, you get pushed and pulled around anyway. So this is a good practice for any day, even beautiful days, but particularly for challenging days, to have more mini embodied power moments. I don't know what to call it, something like that. I will explain a little bit more. So those are the two things I want to share, and they're kind of a part of the same thing. The breathing can actually be one of those little embodied practices, one of those little embodied rituals that you could do during the day, and that I'm doing during the day, or even, I'm not even creating it at the moment. I'm just trying to keep it in my being, and then carry it through, off the mat, off the cushion, off the whatever the practice moment. And both the breathing or a breathing practice, and it can be other practices, but a breathing practice, and any kind of sort of little embodied moment, both are to help us to return to our nature, the earth, to the sacred, to return home, to who we really are, and on a physiological level, so maybe not quite so on a spiritual level, but on a real level, it is regulating our nervous system, and that allows us to show up in the world as who we really are, with the ability of a more constructive way of solving problems, of engaging with the world around us, of resolving conflict in a more constructive, cohesive, natural, organic, truthful way. And that ability that we have as human beings stems from a particular part of the nervous system that gets highly dysregulated, that we drop out of and away from during experiences that are challenging and stressful. So to return to the breath, to find ways to, have these little embodied moments throughout the day will really are really tangible, helpful things that you can do if you are finding that could help you with dealing with whatever is going on for you right now. So the tension, and I'm talking of that tension that is from that memory, from that past story, not necessarily the real the real tension, or often we have these tensions that there isn't any particular reason, there's no injury or there is nothing really that's creating the pain, but it stems from this kind of memory that we have. It really impacts our adaptability in our breath and our ability to breathe freely. It impacts the free, not to go into too much anatomical detail here, but it kind of impacts we have these two pressure chambers, the abdomen, the abdominal cavity, and the chest cavity as the kind of main pressure chambers, cavities involved in the breathing process, with the diaphragm being right between that and moving and keeping us changing kind of pressure volumes in those two cavities. But all of this tension that we might be carrying around in the pelvic floor, in the psoas muscle, in the diaphragm, in the chest muscles, and the intercostals, and the neck, and everywhere. And those tensions come from, just these kind of stories that we carry around still with us, but no longer serving us, really impacts the free-flowing, fluid, adapting exchange between these two pressure cavities. And they do need to be in free, full exchange and flow and communication for a full, organic, natural and healthy breath to happen. And as we are in this sort of universal breath retention right now, I think that we're all a little bit stuck all the way down to, kind of physically in our kind of muscle tissues and our tissue memory. That in turn then also, by the way, just leads to even more dysregulation and can really form a great part of struggling with more serious chronic conditions, by the way. So, what do we need to do? We have to do it. We have to do our practice. Like, there's an argument, we always kind of, especially in the Western cultures, we only ever show up on the mat or do our practice or seek help or support when we're already in pain, and that is way too late. And when we are already right in the midst of it, so it's definitely also already too late. But maybe, if you do take a moment and you realize, well, actually, if I am really just present and with myself, it's all good, I'm all okay. So let's do it. Let's do the practice. We've got to show up. We've got to get our bum down on the cushion. We've got to get our body on the mat. We've got to get our feet onto the ground and walk in nature. We have to take deep breaths. We have to eat good food. We have to nurture and nourish our being so that we keep nurturing our resilience, and then maybe plus some to improve our resilience, to strengthen it again where it has weakened, so that we can, move through what is definitely coming a challenging time. especially if it is making you feel anxious already, even though we're not even quite in it yet, in that kind of sort of second phase of lockdown. Do it. You've got to show up. I've got to show up. I think part of that was maybe I sort of had a little bit of a foresight. I have no idea. Part of that is my idea to do the 30-30 November challenge was maybe sort of part of that, you know, also to kind of create a little something for myself, like a little challenge to show up, to make sure that every day, every morning I get up early and I start the day with a practice, and therefore more fresh and vitalized. So those of you who haven't caught on to that yet, you can still join on the Little Yoga Space Facebook page. I go live at 7:30 every morning, that's London Lisbon time, for a 30-minute practice that I share with you. No big chit chat, blah blah, but you can just come and join and practice along. It's free, no catch, for the whole month of November. Anyway, that aside. Second, you know, so how do we bring this into day-to-day life? So this is like I think actually quite a fun little thing to do. So I think we all have little things that we know we can do to feel a little bit more in our body. So what can that be? I don't know. Those of you who might be watching live, feel free to comment. But it could be like it could be a stretch. It could be like a dance, or a shake, or a swing, or a jump, or a little sing, or a breath. It could be a breath. It could be a breathing exercise. It can be anything that lasts from 5 seconds to maybe 5 minutes. I just remember during the first lockdown phase, which was really quite a long time, on a regular basis, before I had to sort of engage in things or face something, present something or whatever, I put on really quite loud music, the kind that you jump to get into my body. And it was like a 3-minute song, and I jumped and I stomped and I clapped and I sang, and to come into my body and then to show up more at home in my nature for whatever I had to do. So that could be something. So whatever that might be, make a list of it, and really, like, I mean, take 5 minutes, 10 minutes to really think about it, because you might come up with some really sort of things that you were not quite aware of, that they really make you come into your body. So for me, one of the things is, for example, now not so much because it starts to rain, but to take a little break from my work and to just take 10 minutes to take care of all of my pot plants that I've got outside the kitchen where the fire escape is. And I would just sort of, you know, collect more of the caterpillars that are eating my mint, and make sure everything has water, and sort of chop off any dry bits. And that little engagement was actually just as much an embodiment practice for me as I don't know, doing a round of sun salutation. So note those little things. It could be like really not just sort of flippantly making a cup of tea, but kind of celebrating a little bit more the process of making some tea. Write those down. Be aware of how they make you feel and how much you enjoy them, how much you love them. And then second point is make a list of all of the moments throughout the day, your normal average day, where you could do with a little bit more embodiment, where you could do with being a little bit more at home with yourself, and where quite feasibly you could spend that extra time between 10 seconds and 10 minutes. You know, I wouldn't make it longer than 10 minutes. So that could be before you get on a conference call on Zoom. That could be, you know, that moment when your kids come home from school and you have chaos in the house, or I don't know. It could be in a conversation with your partner or with somebody, or, you know, that maybe, I don't know, there is something difficult about that. I don't know. It could be, you know, I think you get the idea. Throughout the whole day, there is really many moments of where we can build in those little embodied moments, and you make it a ritual. And I like that. I like rituals, and you know, I would say that, I don't know, a good 3, 4, 5 years ago, the word ritual probably had something really quite a little bit out there kind of feel to it, and it wasn't quite resonating with me. But now I love my rituals, because actually they are very simple little things, all the way to obviously big rituals that go on for like a whole week. But just kind of I lit a tea light before I came on, and I put some camphor in my little burner to clear my head a little bit, and I sat down 5 minutes before I had to go live, just to exhale and to find my seat, find my ground, and to show up. And it makes this whole experience easier. I think that I am therefore also showing a better version of me. I am more connected, I'm more here, I'm showing up for doing this, for sharing this. And this is actually really quite important, it's way more enjoyable this way. So today's sharing here, this is not like a chore for me. I'm, those of you who know me, I like talking. So, I guess in general, this is always an enjoyable experience for me. But, truly, like sharing the stuff and my little ideas, I have had a really great time doing that in this group. And so even though I would very much like to share today's video outside this private group on the rest of my social media platforms, because I also want to share a little bit of an insight to what the Awakening Awareness program has in store, starting in just over a week. I'm still just really enjoying sharing my little insights, and I'm not holding back like the secret here. This is kind of it. So this is the sort of stuff that my dear friends and colleagues Tiago and Kirsten and I will be sharing with you during that program. So, even though we might look at this video as like a little promotional thing, and maybe I, took extra care a little bit to really show up and be extra present for it today, it's really enjoyable because I did show up with more presence to share. So it makes the things that you do feel different, and it really helps with realizing which of the anxieties and pulls and pushes that keep nagging our central axis are real and valuable, and which ones are really just like coming from these past stories and experiences and memories in our system and our cells. And whether they might still be serving us or not, we can then distinguish much more clearly. And then we can go deeper, so we've got to show up and do the practice. We've got to keep finding ways to actually include this embodiment throughout our day-to-day life. And then let's go more. Let's go even deeper, so that we truly embrace the sensation of embodiment and being at home with our true nature, and connected with earth and sky and our center of compassion and our true self, our Tantien as well, our innate resilience. Actually, I never sort of really translated Tantien as our innate resilience, but that is, I think, what it is. Let's change the memories. Let's change the narrative of those stories. We can, as we go deeper into the practices, as we keep showing up for the practice. Let's go deeper. So then it becomes a true resource to ourselves that is accessible at all times. That we don't have to sort of shed a million layers to access first, because it's not covered up anymore. It becomes a true resource that is just there for you. A couple of my teachers my osteotai teachers would describe this as like, you have this universal bank account that was given to you at birth, and you have to keep making a daily deposit into it if you want to be able to draw from it when you really need it. So keep putting something in every day. You make your deposit so that you have that resource to fall back on, easily accessible, without having to do some maths first, without having to move some money around first. It's there, so you can spend it, you can use it, you've got access to it, direct link to it. Go deeper so it becomes a true resource. Yeah. And then let's breathe. This is it's a breathing practice I've been playing with in different shapes and forms, so I kind of want to just sort of very much just simplify it. It's like a 6-dimensional breathing to help us become aware of space in front and behind us, space above and below, and space to either side of us. So it also helps us to relate more with the shape, with the space around us and the world around us, the world that we move through, that we live in. So if you want to join, it's going to just be a very quick little exercise. Feel free to just take a comfortable seat. You can sit on a chair, the sofa, cushion, wherever you're sitting right now. But maybe if you're sort of quite slumped somewhere, wherever you're watching this, then see if you can maybe just arrange yourself a little bit to still be very comfortable, but also a little bit more aware of your directions and your verticality. Doesn't mean that you're not allowed to lean back against something, of course, that's also fine. So let's just take a deep breath. So that alone could have just been your little mini embodiment ritual that you do at some point during the day. And then as you breathe, begin to observe how there is an expansion happening towards the front and the back of you. Maybe placing a hand on your belly, you might feel how the belly expands forwards as you inhale and retracts back towards the center. Or around the chest, where there's a sort of forwards and back, and around more the upper torso, you can feel maybe that slight expansion moving back behind you as you inhale. So there is a expansion, and then as you exhale and emptying out, everything just settles back towards your middle. Observe that for a few breaths. And maybe as you observe that, you notice that you're ever so slightly deepening your breathing with that to make it a little bit more pronounced. But there's no need to shout with your breathing. So if you just imagine you could pronounce your breath a little bit more clearly, that's very soft, that's very subtle, that's very kind and gentle, then you can probably already feel it. That's all that's needed. No need to exaggerate or strain your breath. Tuning into that expansion to the front and the back. And the returning back to your center also. So there is an engaging out to the world, and also a coming right back to yourself all the time, with every breath. There's this constant communication to the front, to the back. If you don't feel it very clearly sitting up and you want to explore this on your own, then do it lying down on the ground and roll around. Lie on your back, and then you lie on your side, then lie on your front, and then lie on your other side. And you can feel a little bit more clearly the different directions of your breath. So now we've explored front and back. Let's feel a little bit the expansion that goes to the sides, left and right. What you could do is just place your hands here on the side of the rib cage, even when you feel the lateral expansion of the ribs as you inhale. And now the hands come right back towards your center as you exhale, with the diaphragm relaxing. You don't have to keep your hands here, but it's just one way of feeling it. You might also feel like this expansion and widening out across the armpits, across the shoulders. And then again, a emptying out, a coming back to yourself, to your center on the exhale, with the softening, with the release, the letting go. So feel your directions, left and right, your relationship to the space either side of you. So it might help to not only be aware of what's happening on the inside with your breath, but also be aware of the space around you. Include that in your awareness, welcome it, smile to it. And then we bring our awareness to north and south. So we feel the expansion that goes down and up at the same time as we inhale. So as we inhale, the diaphragm is moving downwards, and as you inhale, you might be able to even observe that all the way down in your pelvic floor. So there is a direction down towards the sit bones, to your root, to the earth. And as you inhale also, you might just feel how there is like actually, even though obviously the breath is moving in and downwards as per the movement of the air, but because this is expanding where the lungs are, there is also something expanding up. Maybe you feel it somewhere here in your throat, or maybe you even feel like something right up through the center of the skull. Yeah, like another membrane here. Some sort of expansion and release and coming back together towards the middle, up and down with every breath. So we have 6 directions. We have front and back, left and right, up and down. And really connecting all of that just creates this beautiful sphere all around that we are in. It welcomes all of that space around us and the way that we engage with that. So that means also in the way that we show up in the world. So with this kind of way of breathing in all directions, it's to counterbalance the collapse that's happening physically as well as in our nervous system. It is to counterbalance the numbness that comes from that, as well as the tension and the kind of stuckness in our breath, in our system, in our engagement with the world. Really with the breath, the breath gives us our relationship with the world around us. It gives us life, it gives us the life energy to express our being and life. So just simply tuning into really these kind of, that full dimension in all directions, really super, super powerful. And once you get a sense of that in the beginning, you might want to practice that for just a little bit longer, just so that you really build up a real sensation of it that we can store also in our body memory. But then it just becomes accessible. You can sit and you can literally just take that 6-dimensional breath as your 10-second power embodiment ritual moment before you join the crazy Zoom call or whatever So if anybody of you tried this, please share. How did that feel? Do you have any questions about that? I'm very happy to clarify that, explain that, to do it again, spend more time on it. Yeah, please let me know how you find that and if it makes sense. And maybe you're observing something different, different aspects of this, different layers of this. Please do share. I would love to hear. So yeah, I've mentioned now a couple of times, my dear friends and colleagues Tiago and Kirsten and I are going to be sharing the next edition of the Awakening Resiliency Program, starting on the 16th of November. This time the program is called Awakening Awareness. And this program very much is going to tune into the transitional energies of autumn as we are heading into the time for rest, but also to bring some awareness to maybe the things that we need to tidy up, that we need to bring into order, that we need to close, that we need to bring closure to, so that we can create a more fertile ground for spring to come, which will come. It will. And obviously offering lots of tools and resources and approaches and ideas and perspectives on how to deal and manage the challenges of today's times. There'll be hours and hours of resources. It's a 3-week program this time, so we're kind of going all out. We decided to make it a longer period of time, so to spread out the life elements of it, because they are bigger chunks, and so maybe time-wise that's a little bit more manageable, but also because we feel like we have so much more to share, and we also want to allow and give time to the process. Each week will have a slightly different focus, a different topic, and you have the choice to join for the 3 weeks and fully immerse yourself. There will be something happening every day. Or you can also do it all at your own pace, and you can still do it afterwards. So everything will be recorded. There are quite a few pre-recorded elements in there anyway. Plus you will have access for life. So it will actually be a massive library of helpful ideas, tips, resources, and yeah, different perspectives and food for thought that you can go back to anytime you like for life. So that's the Awakening Resiliency, Awakening Awareness program. I will post the link along with this video, so it's much easier. It's a bit of a long URL. The reason I wanted to really share this now is because on Sunday night at midnight, my time, the early bird ends. We've gone for really quite a big, chunky, amazing early bird discount. It's pretty much half price, so you save €200, plus you get lots of some really great fun exciting bonuses on top of it, and that is because we really want to make this available and accessible to as many people as possible. We want to have a little early sort of take on who's going to be joining us. It's not that early, it's only a week away really. And yeah, we want to really kind of share this and make it available. So if you are somehow thinking about it, make sure you think about it before Sunday night, so that you can catch that amazing early bird discount. From Monday it will then go to full price. It starts on the 16th of November, so it's just over a week away, but you'll find all the details on the link that I will post. Thank you so much for joining me, for saying hello. Hi Jeanette, Tiago, Louise, and everyone else who is here. So nice. Like I said, my invitation was, please do comment, share your perspectives, your ideas, your experience of what I shared. Tell me how you're doing, where you live, and what's going on there, and what you're finding and observing maybe in yourself or in the people around you. I hope this was helpful, and I hope I will be able to connect with you again soon, either obviously here in my Facebook group, or maybe on our beautiful Awakening Awareness 3-week retreat. I'll see you soon. Thank you so much.